A story none of us could have imagined. A story of loss, miracles, and a man with nothing giving everything. Before we begin, take a moment. If this story touches your heart even a little, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people and tell more stories that matter. Because what you're about to hear will remind you that hope often comes from the most unexpected places. It began in New York City. Billionaire entrepreneur Marcus Villari was known for two things: revolutionizing tech and loving his only son, 7-year-old Leo, more than life itself. Despite his cold, ruthless business reputation, Leo was the soft spot in his armor. The little boy had a smile that could melt anyone's heart, but for the last 2 years, that smile had been disappearing, day by day. Leo had been diagnosed with a rare neurological condition so obscure, only a handful of cases had ever been recorded. His body was slowly shutting down, limb by limb, word by word. Marcus, with all his money, called in specialists from Japan, Germany, Israel, Brazil, over 1,000 doctors. They ran every test, tried every treatment. Some stayed for weeks. Others refused payment. But nothing worked. And then came the day Marcus sat beside Leo's hospital bed, holding his tiny hand, whispering stories about space and robots, stories Leo could no longer respond to. Tubes ran from the boy's nose, his eyes glassy and unblinking. Machines did the work his body no longer could. That day, Marcus broke. He didn't weep. He didn't scream. He just went silent. A billionaire brought to his knees by something money could never fix. Meanwhile, 20 miles away in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in Queens, life looked completely different. Single dad, Daniel Ruiz, had just finished his overnight shift as a delivery driver. He barely made rent, juggled 3 jobs, and lived for one thing: his daughter Mia, who was autistic and hadn't spoken a full sentence until the age of 6. Daniel never had time for rest. Every dollar he earned went to Mia's therapy, her special schooling, and homemade meals he'd cook with love, even when his body begged for sleep. One morning, after dropping off a parcel at a high-end private hospital uptown, Daniel got a parking ticket he couldn't afford. Angry and exhausted, he sat on a bench just outside the hospital's pediatric wing. That's when he heard it, a soft, shallow sound. A wheeze, barely audible. He looked up and through the glass saw a child, motionless, eyes half closed, hooked up to wires. Leo. And beside him, a man in a 3-piece suit, crumbling in a way money couldn't hide. That was Marcus. In that moment, Daniel didn't know who Marcus was. He didn't know the boy's name. All he saw was a father in pain. And something inside him stirred. A memory of his own nights sleeping on hospital floors next to Mia when doctors said she might never communicate. He knew that look. That hopeless stare. For reasons he couldn't explain, Daniel stood up, walked inside, and knocked gently on the glass. A nurse tried to shoo him away, but Marcus, too tired to care, nodded. Let him in. Daniel stepped in quietly, offered no advice, made no grand gestures. He simply reached into his delivery bag, pulled out a small, beaten-up toy, a wind-up puppy that barked and flipped. I used to carry this for Mia, he said. Every time she shut down, the stupid thing made her laugh. Might not work, but maybe your kid likes dogs? Marcus didn't even look up. He just gestured toward the bed. Daniel wound the toy and set it down near Leo's hand. The puppy barked. Flipped. Again. Silence. And then Leo's eyes twitched. His fingers moved. A whisper of breath escaped his lips. He smiled. It lasted half a second. But it was the first smile in 6 months. Marcus sprang to his feet. Did you see that? Did you see him smile? Daniel, stunned, nodded. Yeah, I did. Doctors rushed in. They couldn't believe it. Machines showed a slight spike in brain activity. It didn't make medical sense. But something had changed. Over the next few days, Daniel came back. Every morning before work, every evening after. Not with medical knowledge. but with toys, silly voices, dad jokes, and once, even his daughter Mia, who read a book to Leo in a sing-song voice that echoed like music in that sterile room. And Leo kept improving. He blinked more. He began to respond with his eyes, his fingers. A week later, he moved his lips to mouth the word puppy. By the third week, he was sitting up. And Marcus? He was no longer the same man. The billionaire stopped flying to meetings. He sat through every puppet show Daniel performed, every silly moment. He even cried one afternoon when Mia hugged Leo, and the boy lifted his arm on his own to hug her back. Finally, the doctors admitted it, this wasn't medicine. It was connection. Emotional ignition. A surge in the part of Leo's brain no drug had ever reached. Marcus Valari, the man who had outbid countries for technology, now sat beside a delivery driver and watched his son return to life. In a final twist, Marcus offered Daniel a job, anything you want. I'll pay you $10 million to be his full-time caregiver. But Daniel refused. I didn't help your son for money, he said quietly. I did it because I know what it's like to feel like you're losing your child. I did it because I believe kids don't need riches, they need to feel seen. And that, my friend, is free. The story went viral weeks later, not from a press release, but because a nurse, crying behind the scenes, recorded a video of Leo walking for the first time, holding Mia's hand, as Daniel cheered softly in the background. Millions watched. Millions cried. And that brings us to now. If you've made it this far, I want to leave you with this. You never know what kind of miracle you might be for someone else. The world is hurting in ways we can't always see, and sometimes, the solution isn't genius, money, or power. Sometimes, it's love. Patience. Presence.